And after Lucienne, we will be concluding our event here, or our seminar here with the Dennis Hart, and he'll be speaking about what are ancient trails and what are blue water trails.
Aloha. I think everything's been pretty much said already. I think I'm going to take this in another route, and it won't be that long. My name is Dennis Hart. My mom is Hawaiian from Hononau Beach, born and raised in Hononau in Big Island. And my dad is from Missouri, and met during the war. But anyway, most of my life I was always pretty much staying in the center of a trail, never doing more on one side than the other, because I think I wanted to be, oh, you're a nice boy on this side, or you're a nice boy on this side. But my mom, before she passed away, she wanted to go back to her grandfather's village. So I took her, but she started to have Alzheimer's. She had gout, and she had diabetes, and she had all these things that she could barely walk. But I was willing to take her, so we did, and we'd walk 10, 15 feet, sit down, walk again. That was probably the best time in my life with my mom, because she would tell me all the little stories as she grew up in these areas, and who was buried in what caves, and where certain artifacts were that you don't touch, and all these things. So it ended up a real nice walk. Now, one of the pictures you saw up there was the guy standing on the ramp. Well, that ramp was made way before my time, well, actually back in the 50s, because it used to be a ladder. Anyway, my mom, that was the hardest part for my mom to walk up to. And then we had another quarter-mile to walk through the bush. When we got there, my mom's name is Matilda Ku'ule Hart. What Keku'ewa was her maiden name. Anyway, when we got there, I saw something that my mother did, and at first I wasn't sure why, because I know she was starting to have Alzheimer's and stuff. But she started to uwe. I don't know if you all know the uwe. And she would pound her chest, and she started crying, and just uwe, uwe. It was like, oh no, and she was getting some type of revelation then. I let her do that. I just put my arms around her and let her do what she had to do. I've never seen my mom do that. She's talked to us in Hawaiian, she scolded us in Hawaiian, she hit us with the slippers, she did all that. But she never uwe'd. And to see my mom do this was really hard for me. But she then told me, she said, boy, and she never called me boy, she always called me ka'ui. She said, boy, you're going to have to take care of this place over here. All your ancestors are buried from here up to the highway. You cannot let them bulldoze. And you got to take care of this trail, because the village that we were in goes to another village where it was all family. And then the next village, which was family. So they kept those trails open. And I remember back somewhere in the 50s, early 50s, my aunt would make us carry the food and the water out on the trail to feed my uncles who were cleaning trail. So back in 1953 or 54 was the last time they cleaned the trail. And then my mom told me to do this, and I thought, well, what am I going to do? So I started getting involved in all kinds of different Hawaiian issues, and realizing that I was being looked at in a bad way. All of a sudden, people don't like me because I fight for one thing that they may disagree with. And my youngest son, he's 39, he told me, Dad, why do you do this? Why do you fight for this, for these issues? People hate you, and you go in the store, they give you the stink eye. Why? I says, you know what? I finally realized that for once in my life, I need to make a stand of who I am. They may not like me for who I am. or what I may preach. But for my own sanity, I need to make a stand. And I think a lot of us here has done that. Doesn't matter what nationality you are, but you've all made a stand, and it's starting to work. I'm starting to see it. I started cleaning trails, that was going on 10 years ago. And the first thing I need to say this, but I started getting threats from the DLNR that they were going to arrest me for trespassing. And I had a real difficult time with that. And according to the Highways Act of 1892, the way I read it and interpreted it, the trails belong to the people and to the Hawaiian government. We don't have a Hawaiian government right now. We will. But then it belongs to the people. And I do understand that when the United States government overthrew ours, they now took over our lands and ceded lands and trails and so forth. But nothing was being done since 1953 on the trail in that area. So a woman who was from California, she and her husband would try to walk the trails, and she would take a hand clipper and try to cut the thorns so they can walk through. And then one day she heard about my wanting to clean the trails, so she came and talked to me, and we started. I cleaned the trail once a week, and within 3 weeks, I had 48 people working with me on the trails, and it was beautiful. I mean, the heart and soul. They were there every Sunday. It was like church. They were there every Sunday. We bought potluck. We went in there for a couple of hours. We ate lunch, talked story, and went home. So like I said, for going on 10 years, that's what I've been doing. So my big plan was to clean from here all the way down past Miloli'i, as far as you can go. And I realized that I couldn't do that. Because after I cleaned this 6 miles, and it took me a year and a half, the other trail needed to be cleaned, re-cleaned. And so when I finished that, now I got to go back on this one. So I couldn't go that far. Now I think it's the last 5 years, our group split. Another guy took a group and started cleaning from KA to Honaunau, which is my home area. And then I took from Honaunau to Kealia, and someone else took from Kealia to Honokua. And then now we have one more person who's he's retiring from the national park. And she lives way down past Miloli'i, and she wants to start cleaning the trails in that area. So I'm starting to see it happen. And I'm trying to get our younger generation involved so that they can take over. I'm not going to be able to do this forever, for sure, but I'd like to see our kids do this. So we started bringing in a lot of kids from the school. In fact, one of the teachers, the kids had to do a project. In the project, they had to stand and speak in public speaking. So they said, you go out and work on the trails, and then you write something. So they did that, and I had these young boys out there, one young girl. Then I was asked to go and listen to their reports and grade them and see who wins. How do you grade these kids? I mean, they all got 100, you know. But the interesting thing was the feelings that I got, and it was mentioned today by the doctor and by the attorneys and everyone else, that it's a feeling. When I started cleaning the trails out there, I kept thinking about my mom. And yes, you get this feeling. I can sit down, take a break, and I can look at this rock and remember my uncle who sat on that rock to drink water when we used to carry the water out. So for me, it's kind of special. For most of the people that was cleaning out there, it was just cleaning. That's what I thought. But when we discussed it, they were all getting these feelings. In fact, I had one woman, they were from California. She said, you know, I hear this singing on the beach, but I've never heard that before. So I said, what do you mean? She says, oh, they're going, oh, yeah, yeah. That's what I said. So I said, oh, I don't know, I don't hear it. And nobody else could hear it, but she did. So we just let it go. On the way out, 2.5 hours later, as we were walking out, she heard it again. So she and her husband and a few others walked down to the beach through the bush, find nobody. She's never heard it again, but that was once. I've heard children playing, but I knew there were no children out there. And that was some years before I started cleaning the trail. But anyway, before my mom passed, her worry was about the bulldozing that was going to happen. And 2 years later, they started bulldozing. And it was all in our family area. So I went up and they kicked me off the land. They said, hey, you don't belong here, it's ours, the land belongs to us. I said, all my people are buried here. Get off or we call a cop. So they did. They called the DLNR. The officer came down and he shook his head and he said, we're all cousins. And he says, you know what, I got to take you guys out of here. I said, are you arresting us? He said, no, we just got to take you out. I said, no need. We can go back down where we came from. So we did. And after he left, we went back up again. And the owner was really angry then. So he called the cops. It took them time. You can hear them coming down the whole road. So when they came, we left. But anyway, this developer, and this had been happening all over Hawaii. They bring in the bulldozers, they drop the bulldozer, and they start dozing. No archaeological survey, no permits, no nothing. And nothing's being done unless someone like you or me report it. Because there's not enough people to go out and make sure, you know, that these things are not either happening or not happening. So anyway, long story short, this guy was supposed to be fined, and I think it was double the permit, whatever the permit was at the time, $140. You double that, that's the fine. I don't know what it is now. That was like 9, 10 years ago. So anyway, they also got hit with moving the tractor once they were told not to, and it was supposed to be a fine. But we found out later with all the different fines that they were supposed to have, they didn't pay a cent. So we talked to the DLNR. Why is that? That you fine them, but they don't pay anything? Well, he said, we can make the decision whether they pay or they don't. So I said, if it was me, what? Well, we might charge you, we might not. So anyway, we've had our problems in these areas, and I've seen it. I think it's starting to change. I see some changes, some new faces, and you know, I think there's a change happening, and I believe Kauai will probably be one of the first islands to make some of these changes. You talked, Teddy, you talked about bringing these different groups together and discuss so that every island is on the same place, same page, same everything. And that's what I think needs to be done. Because on the Kona side, they'll do something different than the Hilo side. Or Kona will do something different than Oahu. And a lot of it is because of the circumstances that are happening in the area. But we still got to be in one accord. We still have to be. So anyway, back to the trail thing is that, like I said, it's been going on 10 years that I've been doing this. And once we started cleaning the trails and realized that I can't go any further because I had to go back and re-clean, my group got smaller and they split into different groups. So we've got 3 groups cleaning and 1 more starting, which to me is like it took 9 years for this to happen. And it is. And I like that because it's not only me now. Everybody else is getting the stink eye. So it's not just me. But something just kind of off on the side, my older brother, 2 years older than I am, went to Kamehameha. And he ended up being a police officer and got hurt in an accident and ended up with brain damage. But my brother, years later, talked to me and said, you know, I don't know how you do this. How can you fight for these things? I said, what do you mean? He said, well, I went to Kamehameha. We never learned anything about King Kamehameha, Queen Lili Okalani. We never learned about the fights that are going on. You know, how do you do it? He said, I don't know how to do it. I was only taught by Kamehameha School business, how to run a business. And he's good at it. So, I don't know if it takes a special person to do this, because I see a lot of special people in here that have been hanging out over here listening to all of us speak. And you know, the hardest part is trying to speak right after you guys ate. Yeah, so for Alan it was, I got to speak before you eat, and I got to speak after you eat. That's hard. But anyway, there's not much more that I can really say except for yesterday was a beautiful day for me. I learned a lot of things about the people who are working on the trails here, about their understanding and the work that they're doing together with the different departments. And that's why I say that I think there's going to be a change. How they work with the DLNR and how the DLNR works with the people. And that's a big difference. And I know in our area, some years back, it was like they were the boss. They tell you when you can go on the trail or when you cannot. Well, I just went anyway. And it was more because I was just hard-headed. But there's a lot more that I understand now. Now, they were talking about the trail in Hokulia. They put up gates on both ends, not allowing people to enter and walk on the trail. So we decided to go and walk on the trail. And yes, we got stopped. The security came down and surrounded us, and you know, they started bad-mouthing us. Some of them were our family. You guys cannot be here, man. You guys got to get out. You're on private property. I said, no, I'm not. I'm on our own property, because I thoroughly believe that the trails belong to the people. The Hawaiian government and to the people. Not the American government, not DLNR, not county. It belongs to the people. That's the way I see it, according to the Highways Act of 1892. And I know I've gone through this with other people, but I'm going to say it, is that I don't believe we need permission to go and walk on the trail or clean the trail. Now, I do understand that we have some sacred sites out there that we don't want to be abused. Because when I was a kid growing up, all the artifacts that we saw laying around the beach and everything are all gone now. But we were taught growing up, you don't touch it. You know, you don't touch those things. You leave it where it was. Now it's touch and take. So we may open the trail for 10 miles, then we stop. And the reason is because there's some caves there that still have bowls collecting, the umeke, still collecting water from the drips in the cave. We have burial caves that are open right alongside the trail. And people have already started to take. So we didn't open it. And so then I had to realize that I cannot open all the trails. But I was with the threat that if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. So how do I use the trail that I cannot open? Now I have people walking the trails that we have cleaned, fishermen, thanking me and the group for opening the trail, because now he can go teach his grandson where you catch the moi, or where you catch the whatever fish they're looking for. But we have joggers, we have tourists, we have Boy Scouts, we have Cub Scouts walking the trails. Some of them want one of us to go down and walk with them and tell them what we have here. And there are still some artifacts that we talk about, but we don't necessarily show them because it's too easy to carry off. We've had salt bins taken and falling off the back of a four-wheeler and breaking, and so they left it on the trail. We have the heiaus that were open. We had over 34 holes on the top of the heiau that rocks were taken out, so they can go down and grab. They use those pinchers to, to grab stuff, and they're pulling out artifacts out of the heiau. I mean, we never even walked on a heiau when we were growing up. Now they do. And then you see it for sale on the computer. So it's a very difficult thing to open up some of the trails. And I'm starting to see that more now. But I don't want to lose it. There's not much that we have left. So I don't want to lose that artifact, which is the trail. And I also want to be able to do what my mom wanted me to do, and that was to go and clean and watch and take care of. Again, I got kicked out when they were bulldozing. They chased me off the property, but we kept on going back because I felt I was in the right, that I had rights. Not only Hawaiian rights, but the rights of the people. And so again, I say, I believe that these trails belong to the people, not to the state. I did have an attorney who asked me, he says, hey, you know what, Dennis? You know what would be a good thing and make everything settle the whole problem? Have the people turn over their rights to the trail, to the state. Then you guys can use the trail anytime you want. It doesn't sound too... So I said, oh, so you go buy a brand new Harley, you give it to me, and I'll let you ride it when you want. How does that sound? And he's serious. And I saw that's why sometimes there's a different way of thinking. People think different, and you have to listen. Anyway, I am Kanaka Maoli, and I believe in what I believe in until I'm proven wrong. But that's all I have. Okay? Thank you.
Oh, sure.